feel
the power.
That wasn't very powerful, Colin, but
the power.
This is MMA Power Hour with Colin Crandall over there and myself, Adam Roorda. This is episode 5 of season 9. We've got 3 amazing guests coming on here. You can tell our people about that here in a second, Colin. But first, before I give Colin the chance to do that, I want to go ahead and say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We have a lot of stuff going on over on our social media and our website. We're building up a lot of stuff, talking with people about getting some additional audio podcasts. So you guys are amazing for going over to our social media, hitting it up, giving the pages a like, the profiles, follows, and giving us likes, comments, shares, everything to help get the word out there. Also want to bring up Nessa's Hemp. Head on over to mmaph.nessashemp.com to get yourself some of the best CBDA product on the market, and you get a special discount by going to mmaph.nessashemp.com.
Absolutely. They are really doing something amazing over there. Really great products, full spectrum, really effective. You can smell the active ingredients, which is a good sign that you've got something that's not just inert or bogus. Anyway, good stuff, amazing stuff. Nessa's Hemp. Dr. Adam Roorda, question for you. We've got the comments queued up for the YouTube, but I don't think we have it for fight. I know that some of our friends...
no, I'm not able to right now get into there. So
okay, because I know Mark's frequently wanting to shout out support as well as a few other people, but no problem. Anyway, great show. I am excited as always to have 3 amazing guests tonight, and I really appreciate people jumping in for the first time. I know we have a lot of support, but having even more would be really helpful and important to us. A lot of people will watch our show as the days go by, so at the end of the week it does show that we have a lot of people watching, but it would really help if people could come in and jump in on the day of and so really appreciate your support a lot if you're here, knowing that we'd really love to have you and could use the support. So big thank you so much. So Dr. Adam Roorda, we still have a couple of minutes, a few minutes actually, several, before our first guest is ready. So how are you? You look good. You got your good hat on there.
Oh man, I'm doing great. A lot of great things going on behind the scenes here, and and I was just telling you about a big event coming up here that I may get involved with. Had just proposed to me a big boxing match.
Nice.
And the full card, helping out with that. So I may get involved, Colin. I don't know. We'll see.
You gotta see what happens. See if they merit your abilities and skill set. And
well, I mean, the people on the card do.
Definitely.
But we'll see if business works out, right?
That's the key. Business is one of the challenging.
It's about this, that money.
You gotta think about the cabbage there, right? But yeah, you gotta. They say, my buddy Gene LaBelle would say, you gotta put butts in seats. You know what I mean? Gotta make some boletos, as he
That's it.
But God bless him. Gene LaBelle is an amazing guy. Next year he will be 90. Next year.
Wow. I mean, dude's full of stories, and I mean, that only comes with age, right?
Yeah,
well,
amazing.
I mean, some people are just full of shit. But...
Yeah, right. But, he's not one of them. And the bottom line is, so many people he helped to train in martial arts. He was a personal friend of Bruce Lee's, and they shared their martial arts with each other. He was the first trainer of Ronda Rousey. Actually, Ronda's mother was coached under Gene for her medal-winning appearance in the 1984 Olympic Games, and then with Gene and his top student Gokor Chavicyan, they were the first teachers of Ronda Rousey, and she was undefeated while she trained with them. And then just so many other great people. Chuck Norris learned his jiu-jitsu under Gene. John Peretti, many amazing people.
I mean, so many amazing people. So speaking of Ronda Rousey, you heard that she is expecting now, right?
Yes. Now here's my question to you on that, Adam. Will she do what her mom did, regardless of whether it's a boy or a girl, and start showing them arm bars at the age of 2 or 3, and at the age of 5 or 6 jump into their bed at night and say, quick, defend the arm bar, so that they can get to be really good at jiu-jitsu like that? Or will she spare them of that baptism by fire, so to speak? Do you think?
Honestly, I think she's gonna do it too.
Yeah, she'll probably recreate that, right? Makes sense. Well, it helped her to have a great career, that's for sure, as she did as a amazing champion and the first women's champ ever in the UFC. So congratulations on her expecting, and good luck. She is the goddaughter of Jean LaBelle, and they're still close. And so we do have our good buddy, our Scottish friend, asking us to advertise a few days in advance if possible, so that we can spam that info to different places. I appreciate that, Shinta. We will do that. We will do that sometimes.
Whenever we get the chance, actually, we try to do that. The big thing here for us is guests a lot of times in this world, in the world of mixed martial arts, are so busy, especially the ones that we're having on. They're so busy with everything. Being able to figure out if they can come on at this time is usually last second.
Yeah. Sometimes we're just finding out that day or the day before.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain, but it's a reality that we have to live in the press world when it comes down to mixed martial arts, just because everybody that's going to be at a certain level of notoriety is always going to be extremely busy, and to be able to get it built up on their calendars, it's difficult for them. Help us with likes, comments, and shares right now, and that's probably the biggest thing to actually help us get there to where we could help get word out there. Just share in the meantime.
Without a doubt. Adam, you tell it like it is, man. Everyone, if you could share, that would be great. And Shinta, we definitely will let people know as soon as we find out. Rhonda, as a mom, is kind of scary, Shinta says. To be honest.
Well, I mean, her mom was the same way.
They're intense. I mean, I tell you what, if she has a daughter, who knows? She might cut her daughter some slack. But if she has a son, there's no way he's not going to be in some kind of combat sports.
I have a feeling if it's a boy, it's going to be a softer. I just really do. I think the way she was raised, was.
She didn't have any brothers, though. You think?
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think for her, it's going to be a different kind of mentality with a boy. It only makes sense to me because her mother was the one that brought her that toughness, and I think that.
She wants to pass it on to the women.
Yeah, I think that is more of a pass it down to the women. And if she has a boy, then what's she going to do about it? But anyways, that's only speculation.
Yeah, that is a good.
It's the wildest speculation out there to figure out.
Exactly. Good contribution from Ashley Batista here, saying Nick Diaz versus Jake Paul.
Oh yeah, that would be good money.
It might be. I thought they were talking Nate Diaz versus Jake Paul, but either one would be money. Money. I think Nick at this point is a little bit of the bigger, heavier Diaz brother, but then it's also been several years since Nick has fought. They're both badasses, though. And then Ashley, so those of you who don't know, her boyfriend, who's going to be the father of her child, former MMA fighter, UFC fighter, Travis Bown, who's 6'7", and so Ashley just mentioned, imagine a 6'7" Ronda. That would be hilarious. I think.
It'll probably get closer to a Megan Anderson coming out.
Right. If it's a daughter, they're not going to probably be as tall as their dad, Travis Bown.
That's possible, though.
The son would be, though. Daughter not, but you never know. Anyway, we are getting awfully close. Doctor, 2 minutes away.
Yeah, we're 2 minutes away yet, and then we'll pull him in here.
Yeah, so 3 title fights, man. You know what I remember? I remember an event, I think in the last 2 or 3 years, where they had 3 title fights and all the titles changed hands that night. I forget which night it was, but it was such a rare situation. Chances are not likely that happens here, but I'd be curious, Adam, out of the 3 fights, the men's welterweight, Usman versus Masvidal, the women's strawweight, Wei Li Zhang versus Rose, and then the women's flyweight, Valentina Shevchenko against Jessica Andraj. Which challenger, in your opinion, is the most likely to take the title?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and say something here, okay? And I'm going to go down through the list. Okay. I think the challengers are going to, I think they're going to take it.
You think all 3 challengers? Wow.
So let me explain probably the hardest one for a lot of people to wrap their heads around.
Yeah.
And that's probably the Usman versus Masvidal. Yeah. So Usman is talking about retirement soon. I think his brain is not necessarily, but that is also, I think this is kind of an X factor bout. I think at the end of the day, it could go either direction, but I do think Masvidal is on a tear. He is absolutely on a tear. And
even though Usman beat him handily, but that was on 1 week notice.
Well, it was on 1 week notice, and it's also different time in
Right, and
Masvidal's
had to fly over to Abu
yeah,
Dhabi at that point. Yeah,
it's just really different for him
Circumstances, yeah.
psychologically at this point. So I think coming back for a second fight with time to prepare is really going to give him a little bit of an edge here. I think he's not going to be just thrown around. Yep, Ashley agrees with me, it sounds like.
Nice.
She's saying it's a hat trick of title changes.
He or she, you never know what.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But with the reality of the other fights, you know, you got Rose Namajunas. I
think she's got a good shot.
Not just a good shot. I think she's going to handily,
especially if she can get on the top in the ground. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the last one, sorry to interrupt your flow, but I want to talk quick because if you can get ready to work on getting our guest in here. I think Jessica Andraj, I know many people feel that Valentina is the GOAT or tied for the GOAT with Amanda, and I love Valentina, but I'm telling you, at 125, this is the best Jessica Andraj you'll see. At 115, she was good, but she was depleted. At 125, man, look at how she sliced through what do you call her? Caitlin Chukagian, like a hot knife through butter. And Caitlin's a tough fighter. Mm-hmm. So I think the Basta Azteca, the pile driver, has a decent chance of beating the Bullet in that fight. And the odds makers don't have any of these as having much of a chance.
Not much of a chance at all.
Rose. They give Rose kind of a chance, but they give Andraj.
Can you imagine the hat trick on this and then pulling the parlay off?
Might as well put like $5 on a parlay for all three challengers. You know, make like $200. Anyway, whenever you're ready, Doc,
put 50 down.
Yeah, why not?
2,000.
There we go.
We're ready. Going to the first guest here.
That's it. Ready for Skype dance?
Skype dance in 3, 2, 1. Skype dance. Jen's Pulver style.
Jen's Pulver Skype dance. Jen's is such a nice guy. I met him like 20 years ago at a fight. Chris Brown, are you there, my friend? Chris, talk to me. Can you hear me? Chris Brown.
Yes, I can.
Excellent. All we need you to do is hit that video symbol. There we go. You have it. We are live, my friend, as always. And let me give you a proper introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I am super excited to have this next guest on the show, man. I've been a believer in this man ever since 2017 when we first had him on the show. And he is still killing it, and he's getting better and better and better. Aging like fine wine, I would say. This is a man, this is a man that many people believe in, but if you ask some of the best fighters in the world, like John Jones, how good this man is, John Jones will say, this guy's destined to be a star. We're talking about the man they call Breezy and the future, Mr. Chris Brown. Welcome back, Chris.
Thanks for having me back.
My pleasure. It's been a while, man. I remember, I think the first show we had you on, and this is before we were with Fight TV, we were just going live to Facebook, and there was no time limit. So we ended up doing a 5.5-hour episode, and you, I think, were the final guest on the show, and you were so cool and so energetic and personable that you helped me get a second wind to be able to continue. But yeah, man, I don't know if you remember that, but yeah, it was.
Yeah, I remember it.
That was something, man. But yeah, I've always believed in you, and I'll tell you what, you've been keeping it going, man. For years, people avoided you, as you know. People avoided you like the plague, and right, and yeah, and then when people didn't avoid you, they would sign and drop out, and then finally, when people showed up, they were lucky to barely get a judge to not see things clearly and give them the decision. So it's like you've had to deal with pretty much all the adversity and things that could have gone wrong, like in the Murphy's Law, right? You know,
right.
But I think you have not got discouraged. You have not given up, and I think that that this last LFA fight was a big one, man. I have to ask you, you had to be so focused on this fight, man. You had to be realizing that you just cannot, you know, go out there and even make this fight close. Am I right, or what was your thought going in?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The focus on this camp was, you know, I had to make something happen. I had to grind, especially if I didn't win, you know, I'd be basically a 50-50 fighter. I wasn't even trying to go down that route, especially when I know how good I am and what I'm capable of. So this fight, I just had a lot of time to sit and go back to the drawing board and get back to a lot of my basics and get back to being me. And I had a great camp, got to finally be healthy without killing myself to make weight anymore. I started the camp out at like 205. I ended up having to cut 17 pounds the night before the fight. So, and I still felt great even after the cut. So this was definitely like the best decision to change my weight class and just finally be me and not be depleted.
Yeah.
And have a lot left in the camp, like not just dying, looking like a Holocaust victim just to fight and, you know, trying to make it through a fight. But so it's finally good to just be me. Got out there, felt really fresh. Felt everyone was like, "Why is you so calm?" Like, come Joey and Joel, they're in the back, like, "What's going on?" I'm taking, you know, phone calls. My mom's calling me. I'm like, "Hey, I gotta go, Mom. I'm getting my hands wrapped. Let me talk to you later." Because my brother called me from prison right before, so I got to talk to him. He gave me some good words. So I was just in just a great mood, great space mentally and physically, and I already knew that I was going to go out there and perform.
Absolutely. And so this was your first fight back at welterweight then since when you were an amateur, or did you have one pro fight as a welterweight?
I think the fight with Bahamondes was at 170.
And this one was a 170 you're talking about, right? Or was this?
Yeah, this one was 170.
That makes sense. But you were killing yourself to make 55, and I think that was one of the problems. But yeah, I think at this point in your life, in your career, you're not a small 170. You're a pretty much average size 170 as well. Yeah, you know. And so, I mean, do you think if they finally implemented the other two weight classes that they talked about several years ago, if they took out 170 and brought in 65 and 75, which of those two would you think would be your first choice?
I would. The lazy me would want to do the 75.
Right. But you could make the 65.
But I could definitely make 65 easily.
I wonder how long it's going to take to get those classes in, because I remember I know what they were, and it was 4 years ago. They said, here's what the proposal is, and I think they said, here's what the athletic commission, at least in California, Nevada, and a lot of the bigger states would allow. They said we would allow 70 to be taken out, add 65 and 75, add 95 and 225. And I remember thinking, man, that would be just so great, because tons of people killing themselves to make 70 would make 65. A ton of people that just can't make 70 but are really small middleweights would make 75. Your boy John Jones could have gone to 225. And a whole bunch of guys who were couldn't make 85 but were too small for 205 could go to 95. I think it would be great, and you know, and I guess it may take years more till it happens, and you know, no one's forcing a promoter to do it. Do you think we'll ever see that happen, Chris? I mean, like ever anytime soon, or what do you think? And I'm sure you would like it, right?
See it happen.
Yeah.
I think it would make fights more competitive, more title fights, more competitive fights, because, you know, you'd have healthier fighters in there. You don't have a lot of issues with the weight cuts anymore. I think it would just be great for the sport altogether.
Makes sense. Yeah, I really do, you know, and hopefully, you know, one day soon. All right, here's a funny comment. I'm gonna, you know, throw this out, because normally if people want to have us ask a fighter a comment, you know, we do ask for a little bit of a tip. But if it's gonna be something funny like this, I'll throw it out, and you don't have to elaborate with the answer, Chris. You can just laugh on this if you want. But he says, I have to ask Chris, knowing him seeing you that you're Chris Brown, how was Rihanna in bed?
Always Rihanna jokes.
That's it.
I've been getting Rihanna jokes nonstop, so it's
There we go.
a long time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I tell you. And then also wanted to let one of our fans know real quick. They're asking where else our stream is. And also for you to know, Chris, we're not only on Fight TV, FITE.tv, which was just acquired by Triller, which is exciting.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll hopefully be seen all over there. And then we're also on the HANNIBAL TV on YouTube. So for those of us watching us on one of those outlets, you can see us on the other. So, Chris, man, this one was big. This had to impress the LFA brass. You never know. You never know what's going to happen, but you know, with the relationship that Ed Suarez has with Mick Maynard over there, being that they were together briefly, and you know, when they had the RFC, LFC with the RFA combined, and so obviously we're hoping that UFC is now probably going to be looking at you. Are you hearing that? Or will they give you any hints? Are they saying to you to be ready or what?
You know, they won't give me any hints, but I've been on the radar for a little while now, so it's just a matter of time. Especially after that performance, you know, Ed was running up to me in the back, you know, just, you know, baffled about things that I was doing. You know, I ran into Gilbert Melendez at the hotel. He was roomed right next to Joel, so chopped it up with him for a little bit. You know, none of them, all of them were impressed by, you know, just the things that I was doing. And Gilbert thought, you know, it was something that the coaches were teaching me. I'm like, no, this is, you know, the breezy style, you know, fully translated to the ring.
Absolutely, you know? Especially when you're not depleted.
Finally being able to be myself. You know, get out there clear-minded, know what I'm able to do, and been able to react and things like that, and you know, not feeling the fatigue of the weight cut.
Absolutely, and it makes a lot of sense. One of our fans was really glad that I asked you that question, and you know, just to let you guys know, I have a good rapport with Chris Brown. He's a young man that has a sense of humor. I knew he wouldn't be angry if I passed on that question about Rihanna. So,
I do it all the time.
Absolutely.
Plus, where's Rihanna?
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I like to see my friend here smile, and I knew that would at least give him a chuckle, right? You know, so I'm glad it did. Well, I'll tell you, Chris, this is a great time for you, man, because I think you're as ready as you'll ever be. I think that you're right in your prime, and I think, man, if they just bring you on, man, short notice, medium notice, long notice, as long as it's 170, you know.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah,
I can get in there, and there's just so much, and you know, I really wasn't able to do everything I wanted in the fight either. I was kind of frustrated.
Right.
He was running for his life the whole time, trying not to get knocked out. So I was getting a bit frustrated. Probably should have did a little bit more grappling, but his coach was talking shit the whole beginning, talking about, you know, he just wants to wrestle. So I was like, okay, well, let me show you why I'm breezy.
I like it. I like it. What was Coach Joey Villasenor telling you in the corner? Anything? Was he trying to get you to do anything you weren't doing, or were you guys pretty much on the same page?
No, he was just calling out what he saw was open, and just telling me to, you know, not to get too excited or to rush in and, you know, get myself caught doing something. So that was, you know, a big thing, just trying to stay relaxed and not get too frustrated and start jumping into things and exposing myself. So it was just limiting exposure.
Absolutely. Any words from John Jones, man? I know he has his own thing going where he's working on getting up there to heavyweight and you know, back and forth with Dana and all this. And you know, has he had any time to give you any good words or to talk to you about anything?
I haven't talked to him since this fight. I talked to him before the fight. You know, gave me well wishes and everything.
Nice.
The last wrestling practice we were at. But no, I haven't talked to him too soon. I'm in Dallas right now, but Holly hit me up after the fight as usual. She's always one of the first people to hit me up after fights.
That's right. I forgot to throw that out there. Not only have you been a long-time teammate and trained with John, but also a lot with Holly because you're much closer to her or closer to her weight than John. Well, when you were at 55, you were closer to her weight, and you were at 55 for quite a while. Now you're kind of dead center. But yeah, I know you're tight with Holly. I mean, I know that they would be supporting you like crazy in the UFC, and that would be amazing, man. And you know, I just would love to see you in the mix. We've been talking about it for a while, and you know, have you been able to? Because honestly, most people know 4 years ago you were probably ready. I think you're more ready now, and I think
now,
yeah.
Now mentally,
Yeah.
I'm right where I need to be. Especially now that we're at the right weight class.
Yeah.
I can finally be myself fully. So yeah, and this was just just a little bit of what I do, and I wasn't really too. After a while, I was like, Joey after the fight was telling me to smile. I was like, Breezy, smile, you won.
Yep. Yep.
But I'm a hard on myself as it is. So,
Right.
So I enjoyed the win and everything. So then I got right back in it. I'm already been thinking about the things that I want to do, especially from what people saw me doing on that fight. I didn't really show my whole arsenal still. It was only working with what I was given. There's only so much you can do when someone doesn't want to fight.
Exactly. That's very, very true.
So not being too. So Joey was reminding me not to be too hard on myself. But I definitely think I showed enough that everyone should be excited to see what's next.
Without a doubt, I know I am. Now, let me ask you, even in fights where the winner doesn't take a lot of damage, I think a lot of people who haven't trained in martial arts don't really get how that's not true. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. I've trained in jiu-jitsu. I've trained in striking for many years. It's never been with people high level like yourself, but I even know from the people that I've trained with that when we've gone hard, that even if you win, people don't think about that you could have taken damage just by that hard action. Just by, your ankle could be twisted, you could have a sore hamstring, your shin could be busted up, your shoulder could be twisted up, your neck. So let me ask you, from that action that you were in, did you come out at least relatively healthy, or do you have a bunch of soreness that you'd have to deal with
honestly,
for a while?
I was surprised at how sore I was. I was like, man, why is my back sore? Why is my arm sore?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was very active. So
yes.
There's that. And but the only injury was from I threw a low kick and he checked it.
Right.
But as soon as I threw it, it was a dumb one. I was just being active, and
right.
I did a really low kick, and he checked it, and I felt it immediately. He's like, "Ooh, that's not good."
Yeah.
But, you got to keep that poker face on, so you can't show no weakness. So I just walked it on out. So
absolutely.
So that's really been the only soreness I had right there.
Okay, so you think perhaps right now, it being April 21st, that if they didn't ask you to jump in till maybe like 2-3 weeks from now, you could be ready?
I'd fight next week.
I love it. I love it. Fantastic. So your style is really similar to John's, and I'm sure you guys have seen that. You're kind of like a little bit of a smaller version of Jon Jones. Both of you have a wrestling background, but both of you have this dynamic striking background. Obviously you're your unique person, because I think you're doing some even more like aerodynamic stuff with the jumping kicks than John. John has got the oblique kick, and he's got his stuff that just messes people up that he throws out there, and you have.
I'm a little more tricky.
Yeah. You're almost like a cross between a Jon Jones and an Anderson Silva.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say
described that way a lot.
Yeah, so I think that definitely you would present a problem.
Those are my two favorite fighters of all time. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and
it makes sense that they would, be a part of my game with some Bruce Lee thrown in there.
Absolutely. Isn't it hard to believe, man, how many years Bruce Lee has been dead? You ever watch any of his interviews? And there are very few out there.
Oh yeah, I've watched all of them.
Yeah,
I grew up a big fan.
Yep.
My dad had all the videos when I was a kid, so I spent a lot of time watching Bruce Lee. That's why I'm always backhanding people.
Yep, I love it. I love his interviews too, because he died in '73, and so that was like that '60s, '70s kind of cool cat type of stuff. And the way he talked, it was so '70s.
Real smooth,
yeah. He like, yeah, man, you got to be like a cool cat.
Yeah, he's a real player.
He really was, man. He was so cool for the '70s, man, and he was just a humble guy, man. I love watching interviews. The only thing about his interviews that I hate is, while you're listening, it's almost like he's there, like he's here today, and you're listening. And then when the interview ends, it's like, damn, man, you know, you wanted to be able to say, hey, Bruce, tell me about this, or what's your thought on that?
You want so much more.
Yeah.
It was taken from us too soon.
Yep, he really was. You know, just what an amazing legend, man. That must have been a trippy time. And it's funny because once in a while you hear some people try to discredit Bruce and say, oh, man, you know, he can't be given credit for all this fighting today because he didn't jump in any kind of full contact.
He was a major catalyst. Like,
yes.
I might not necessarily believe, you know, a lot of the street legends of some of the things he was doing.
Right.
You know, he is a movie star.
Right.
So some of the stuff is a lot of exaggeration. But what he did for the sport of just martial arts in general is legit. Though.
It's huge. It's epic. I mean, if he hadn't been there and done that, who knows?
He opened a lot of doors. And he ushered in a revolution.
Yeah, he really did. One of the things that I thought was interesting is that one interview in Canada, Black and White, where it's got this interviewer, an old white guy with gray hair. You probably saw that one on Canadian TV. And the year was like 1971, I think, for that interview, or 70 or something. And I remember one question that the interviewer asked Bruce. He said, Bruce, he said, what is martial arts? Right? And I thought, if you think of asking someone that today, it's like a joke. Are you kidding me? What is martial? But at that point, in reality, probably 80% of the people watching
didn't know.
And the commentator himself probably only had a small idea of what that meant. And to think that in the decades since, not only does everyone know what it means, but millions of people train in martial arts. I mean, millions. To imagine at Bruce Lee's time, you probably had to drive 100 miles to find any sort of a karate or judo or kung fu school. And now, what you drive a mile, you usually see 2 or 3 martial arts schools. Yeah. So
it's amazing. It's amazing how far the sport has come, and how it's the fastest growing sport in the world. Because anybody can do it. You can get up and just go.
Yeah.
So it's all encompassing, men, women, it doesn't matter. So it is the wave of the future.
Yeah.
It took a while to get started, but you know, everybody sees you know, the benefits of it. Just even if you don't do it professionally, it's the best workout you can get because everything is involved.
Absolutely. And a lot of people don't know that you guys and women that are professional MMA fighters, man, you guys are some of the best shape out there. I mean, just like, because you have to have everything strong.
You use everything. You're constantly working out, and you're having a good time when you do it. It's fun. You're not in the gym trying to kill each other. You're in there getting better, having fun, pushing each other.
Exactly. So does Holly have something signed? I seem to feel she did, but was it canceled, or does she have something signed?
I know it was pushed back because she had the surgery.
That's right.
But she is going to be fighting. I want to say maybe around like August or September. She's about to be back clear to start training again.
That's cool.
After the summer, for sure, I know she'll be back in there.
Cool. One thing a lot of people don't know about her is she has some of the longest hair of most girls you'd see walking down the street, doesn't she?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it goes all the way to her butt.
Nice. At what age do you think we're gonna see Holly Holm cut off half of that hair and have some kind of like cute like bob hairstyle or something where it's like looking all sharp?
She literally had posted something about if she should cut her hair like a couple weeks ago. And I was like, never. Yeah, no. You better never cut that hair off.
Yeah. It's funny, man, because like you see some women are 65 years old and they're still sporting that long hair. And I guess some can get away with it. Although to me, at some point, if a woman is a grandmother, why she would have to keep that hair, I think at some point, right?
I know it is a lot. She tells me about how much work it is. And I could imagine just, you know, the older you get, the more more of a hassle it would be.
Yeah.
So I could, see her with a little bob cut in like 20 years.
There we go. There we go. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll give her some time, but yeah, no time soon though.
I agree. No, she's amazing. And so, talk to me real quick about John, because everyone saw what John. And I'll tell you what, I like John having the courage to speak his mind. It's funny because John is a strong personality. Obviously, Dana White is a strong personality too. I think that John feels that he's in the position where he shouldn't have to be afraid of anyone, and he's
John's not afraid of nobody.
No, and whether it's in business or in the cage, he's not. And so, yeah, and so
he wants to not Ngannou fight, but he wants to be paid for it.
Yeah.
It is the biggest fight ever.
It really is. Well, let me ask you this. John, I think, is keeping his new muscles kind of under wraps. He's not going out there.
That boy is big.
Is he? I heard that.
When he showed up at wrestling practice, like I had seen a video of him running on the treadmill, and I was like, man, John's looking big. And
I bet.
He shows up to wrestling practice, and I'm like, oh goodness, look at you, because I'm used to seeing John, like I've seen him at different stages of his body. Yeah. I'm used to him being 250 with his dad by, kind of out of shape, outside of camp. But right now he's 250 solid. Like
wow.
He's solid. And but he was telling me he wants to get to 265.
Wow.
He's like, his mindset is he wants to be as big as Ngannou, if not bigger. So he wants to really push it up and get up there, and that's why he's spending so much time doing his weight conditioning and making sure his lungs are right. But he's been lifting like crazy every day for the better part of a year now.
Yeah. I wonder about that, because I know John is an amazing athlete who can do pretty much whatever he wants. You can't compare him to past athletes, but I remember a heavyweight matchup when Frank Mir went up against Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar is just one of these monsters.
He just bulldozing everybody. And
Right. Not only that, but remember the size of like chest on Brock Lesnar.
Huge, yeah. Remember the first time you seen Overeem when he fought against Brock Lesnar?
Yeah.
And that was the first time you see someone bigger than Brock.
Yeah, that's true. When he was the Ubereem, he was your teammate.
Yeah, when he was Ubereem before he got back down to being skinny.
Yep, exactly. But you know what I remember, though, that I was thinking? When Frank Mir went from like 245 or 250 to like cutting down to 265, I think his thought was he wanted to be as big as Brock. And even though in the first fight he heel hooked him, in the second fight it's almost like that worked against him, because he had all this extra muscle on him, and Brock was like naturally a guy that would walk around 300 pounds without even doing too much. And so I almost wonder, whatever weight John is now, do you think he would really want to weigh in at 250 something or 260 something against Francis on the fight? Because my thought is he would. You do, because I was thinking he might want to come in at like 240 something to have maybe some speed. I know he wouldn't want to come in at 210 or 220, but you don't think he would maybe want to come in maybe not quite as heavy because of the speed? Or it sounds like he's thinking more like he wants to make sure he's strong.
He's like the speed difference. He'd still be even bigger. He'd still be faster than Ngannou. He has a longer reach than Ngannou. And the heavier weight just gonna make it easier for him to take Ngannou down.
That's right. That's right.
The whole problem with when Stipe fought him. I was like, why would you lose all that? It's not DC you're fighting. Why would you lose all that weight? So when you get him down, you don't have no weight on him.
I talked about that on my show, man. I did not understand that. It made
no sense to me. I was like, you should want to be heavier to absorb, because him being skinnier wasn't going to give him enough speed advantage. It's not like he was moving in the first place.
No, and he was like 38 years old also, 37, all respect.
For him to think that cutting weight was going to give him some type of speed advantage was just dumb.
No, it really was. And I think you're right. John realizes that if he came in at 225, he'd have to be absolutely a Habib on the takedown to take down Francis.
He wouldn't have as much leeway. Because in the first fight, Stipe was heavier. He took more punches.
Right.
He could absorb a little bit more, but since he was so little, there was nothing to absorb that hit. It's too much power for for him to be so small.
Exactly. You know, now let me ask you this: Kamaru Usman's there training Francis, and he likes him. Whatever. They're both from the same continent of Africa, but all we got to see, I wish we would have got to see Stipe throw a few more shots, come in with a few more takedown attempts, because all we got to see was one, and Stipe was only 230. As soon as I saw
that, and it was a sloppy takedown attempt too.
Not great.
Once I saw him sprawl on it, I was like, yeah, this fight's over.
Yeah, you could see that, but what we couldn't see is that sprawl was beautiful, and it was against a man who was much lighter.
But it was a horrible shot.
Right, the shot wasn't that great, and the man was lighter than he should have been. So I don't. So my question to you
he would have to get really good at chain wrestling, because just if the first one doesn't work, then there's another move. And John's a great wrestler. He trains chain wrestles. Yeah. So it's you defended that. Well, can you defend this?
Yeah.
And no matter how long that he trains, he's never going to be on the level as John with the wrestling.
That's what I think. That's what I think, you know.
I see it going similar to how he fought Rampage. He's going to break him down. He's going to, like how with the oblique kicks, Ngannou's not going to be able to just walk him down and punch.
Right. Do you think
he's going to have to work angles, and the more angles and the more he gets offline, the more that John's going to be able to eat him.
Absolutely. Do you think when that fight gets made, do you think they're going to make it a fight where those two guys are going to start talking trash about each other right away, and there's going to be some bad blood? Or do you think it's not really going to be anything like that?
Unless it's fabricated, there's no bad blood between the two. And Ngannou's always, a nice person. Like Wink's always saying whenever he runs into him, like Ngannou's like super pleasant. Hey, coach, how you doing? Shakes his hand, shows him love and respect. So
that's cool.
He doesn't seem, he's a very respectful person, so he doesn't seem like he's going to be wanting to sit and trash talk. But you never know. They could, play it up for the fight. So it's always better when, you get a little bit of back and forth. But the two of them would be, it kind of would seem awkward.
Absolutely. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see. So what did you think when you saw two of your former teammates fight each other this past Saturday, Andrei Arlovski and Chase Sherman? What was your thought going into that, and what was your thought when you watched it?
I actually didn't even realize that they were fighting each other until the fight was on.
Okay.
And I was sitting there like, I was telling the guys I was with, I was like, yeah, those we all used to train together. So it was a trip, and I like both of the guys. But Andrei is my favorite heavyweight of all time.
Yeah. So
it was great to see him get a win. That man is like wine. He's just aging, getting better and better. So
he's amazing.
It's always great to see, him still doing it, still beating these young guys, still in contention after all these years. Like, I still remember the first time I got to see him at the gym when I joined. I walked in one day, he's standing at the on the mats, and he's got the fangs in.
Yep.
I see the hair. He's got his pit bull with him. I just remember just sitting there in awe, just like, oh my God, that's Andrei.
Yep. And he's a nice guy, huh?
Oh yeah. He doesn't seem nice when you first meet him. Like, he's not the most approachable person. Like, he looks, and he always has like that mean glare on his face.
Yeah.
He likes to yell. But once you get to know him, he's a very nice guy. He's awesome.
Did he ever do much training with John?
They did some training together. I don't know how extensive it was, but I'm sure they got their time in. If I was getting rounds in with Andrei, I know John was.
Makes sense.
Andrei hurt me one time. He's so big. We were going, we were sparring, and then he started trying to wrestle with me, and he took me down.
Oh man!
Like, landed on my foot or my ankle or something. He's just so big.
Oh yeah, you're probably giving away like 75 or 100 pounds in that.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes it rough, man.
He decided to get rough. It got real rough.
Yeah, I bet. Hey, Chris, we only got about 2 minutes left with you. Can I pick your brain real quick for 2 minutes?
Yes.
I appreciate it. Give me maybe like 30-second answers on this. And do me a favor, because I know that not everyone can break this down, but I know you can. I know sometimes I ask this question and a fighter just sometimes will answer the way I didn't want the answer to be. So I'm going to present this to you because I believe you will follow the instructions. Give me a 30-second breakdown, not just who you think will win, but if you want to say who you think will win after. But give me 30 seconds on how you think the main event, Masvidal and Usman, will play out, and then a prediction if you have it.
I think Usman's game plan is going to be the same. Smother him, get him to the cage, get him down to the ground, pound him out. So Masvidal, his biggest thing is how he's going to keep the fight standing, his takedown defense, and he's going to be looking for a knockout. So, but I got Usman winning.
Yeah, makes sense. I kind of think you're right. It should be exciting, though. How about the second one down, Rose Namajunas, or maybe the third, but Rose against Wei Li Zhang?
I think it's going to be a fireworks fight. They're going to be banging it out. Rose is going to be coming. I know she's got a lot of fire right now, but I think Zhang's going to win. That girl from China is a monster.
She is. Only thing I think can be a big advantage is if Rose can get on top on the ground.
Yeah, if she can get it down to the ground, but I think she's going to be up for the challenge, though.
Yeah, possibly. It should be great. And then finally, Valentina Shevchenko against the former strawweight champion Jessica Andraj. This is a woman who used to fight at bantamweight, only dropped to strawweight because there was no flyweight division.
Right.
And I think here at flyweight, by the way she tore through Caitlin Chukagian, I think she's at home here in flyweight. But obviously, me saying that won't influence you. What's your thought? How does that one break down real quick, and then a prediction?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good fight. Claudia used to fight at the gym with us too for a while, so I'm familiar with her. I can't bet against Shevchenko right now though, but yeah. I know that Andraj, she's gonna come through hard. I know I said her name wrong.
Yeah, that's all right. That's right.
But yeah, Andraj, yes. I think she's gonna bring it. She's gonna push the pace, but I think Shevchenko, she's got the skill set to put her down.
Absolutely, you could be right. So you're feeling all three champions retain Saturday night.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Gotcha. Well, Chris Brown, I'm so excited to see your future, man. Like I said, and you said you're at the best possible point in your life. You're ready to get that call.
Ready to make that run.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it, man. Let me know when you hear something. I don't know if when you hear something, if you feel like someone tells you you have to give it to ESPN or you have to, but if no one tells you that, any chance you can just let us know real quick?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I
appreciate that. And then we can arrange for you to come back down on the show and then promote it and make sure to pump it up before the fight happens.
Yeah, definitely. When I figure out what's next, I will let you know.
Awesome. Really appreciate it a lot, my friend. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us here again, Chris. Always great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks.
Can't wait to do it again.
Me too. You have a great night.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that was Chris Brown, the man they call Breezy and the Future. And at different times, he had different nicknames. First, it was Breezy, and then it was the Future. John Jones loves calling him Breezy because that was his first nickname. So now he kept it into both of them, Breezy or Morpheus.
Easy, sleazy, breezy.
Breezy
Chris
and
Brown.
the Future. He's awesome. Anyway, we're ready, Dr. Adam Roorda, for our next guest. Whenever you are ready to roar.
Well, I'll be there in a moment.
The roar will be roaring. So amazing fights, man. Look at all these other great fights on there. You got Weidman and Uriah Hall. You got Jimmy Crute against Lionheart, Anthony Smith.
I mean, that's just a great card this
Alex
weekend.
Oliveira, yeah.
I mean, just lined up with
Carl Roberson and Brendan.
I don't know how these matchmakers have been doing it for like a year and a half. It's like before that, it was kind of sluggish for a moment, but now it's just wow.
The
and then the next card beats the last card.
Every card has been great pretty much during the pandemic era. It really has.
Well, we got to give some of the credit to the fighters too.
Yeah, without a doubt, people are fighting hard.
All right, let's get going into that Skype dance. Skype dance. Ooh, that blew my ears. There he is.
Hey, Brendan, can you hear me?
How we doing?
Doing great. How about yourself?
I'm good.
Excellent. Oh, we got you. You hit the video button. Perfect. We're live. Let me give you a proper introduction here, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to have this next guest on the show. This is one of the very best commentators in the world today, working with the UFC. And I think I'm correct, even though once in a while play-by-play color, I get confused, but I'm pretty darn sure I got it with saying play-by-play for the UFC. And we're talking about none other than Mr. Brendan Fitzgerald. Welcome back to the show, Brendan.
Thanks for having me, Colin. Good to be with you.
Thank you. And I'm right. Play-by-play, right?
Play-by-play. That's what it is. The play-by-play is the kind of, blow-by-blow as it is in boxing or whatever. And then the color is the analyst, the expert, the fighter in this case. Right. And so that would be the Bisping, the Felder. Right. And all those kinds of guys.
Now, is there ever any crossover? And tell me, are there ever any funny moments where you start doing color for some reason, or the fighter starts trying to do play-by-play and you're stepping on each other's feet?
Yeah, I mean, it's in fighting, in MMA, it's a bit different because it's not like the analyst, the color guy is never gonna be like, oh, good right hand, or 1-2 combo. They kind of react to it and have that reaction to it. So it's a lot of give and take. Now, in the play-by-play chair, it should not be a lot of analysis, right? I mean, after starting jiu-jitsu, I would start to notice some things, and I think what it does, an educated play-by-play announcer in whatever their sport, it almost opens up questions that you can tee up the analyst with, like, oh, have you noticed that they're doing this? Right. Because, my novice mind is seeing that. But I think, a large part of people watching are kind of novices. They're huge fans of the sport, but that doesn't mean they're well trained in it and they know everything about it. So when you have Bisping, Dom Cruz, Paul Felder notice things, or sometimes it just might be so normal to them, like that's what that guy should be doing, but maybe it takes a play-by-play guy or a more novice mind to almost point out certain things. So that's really, I should not be breaking down anything. I should just be maybe noticing some things, and as I know more about the sport, but ultimately getting their take on it.
That makes sense. Did you ever, just for the hell of it, for giggles, or if you were off the air, to see what happened if you started all of a sudden doing breakdowns in color and see what the fighter would say? Did you ever try that?
I mean, it would be that might be a pretty fun parody. I think we've joked about that too, where I'm just like, oh yeah, you see, just like somebody who doesn't know anything about golf. Well, what he wants to do is pick up his front foot and then really turn his head way down.
Start telling it, right? It'd be funny to see.
I probably joked about that with Felder and stuff more than anybody else. But yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
But, that should not happen on the air.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say it'd be funny to see. Speaking of which, let me ask you, when it was way back when it was Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg, who was play-by-play and who was color, or was it just kind of unclear?
Well, I mean, again, the sport forces it to be unclear at times, but Goldie is the play-by-play. Anybody who's the host is going to be the play-by-play. Like when they come on the air, and it's John Anik to start the pay-per-view, well, he's the play-by-play guy. That's the trained broadcaster. And for so many years, that was Goldie. You know, and then Rogan was the kind of, he was never a fighter in the UFC, but he's a black belt and he's trained martial arts, and, he was a fighter in the past and all these other things.
Yes.
When you come on the air for the Super Bowl, if it's Jim Nantz talking, that's the play-by-play guy, and then he brings in his partner. So that's how that works.
And so when it's so it was always Goldie as the play-by-play, and then Rogan was color. Now that there's no Goldie, when Rogan would come on with two fighters, or Felder or DC or Dominic Cruz in DC, then it looks like Rogan is now doing play-by-play. Is that right?
Well, no, Anik is always with Rogan.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, Rogan's never been in the play-by-play role.
Okay.
Rogan's always, Rogan has been with different fighters, but it'll be Anik, Rogan, and DC, Anik, Rogan, and Cruz, Anik, Rogan, and Felder. That's how that works.
Okay. I wonder what would happen if, just for giggles, the producer of the UFC or executive or the PR or whoever just said, let's just see what Joe does if we don't have Anik in there. And we made it Rogan, DC, and Dominic Cruz or something. Yeah. What do you think would happen? I'm sure they could improvise. It'd be kind of funny, though, wouldn't it?
I mean, I've thought about, Rogan aside, I just thought in this world that we're in, what happens if a positive test comes back and I can't do the show?
Oh, that's right.
Or John can't do the show. Like,
there's no play-by-play. Right.
It's in Jacksonville. It's not like somebody could get there the day of. I think they would just roll with just the fighters. Now, it would be a bit of a scramble. The thing that would really suffer is like the opening of the show, or not suffer, but just the thing that we're good at in our role is the opening of the show, setting the stage, like teeing up the broadcasters. There's a lot of sponsorship reads. And so, like, you know, P3 pays a lot of money, and you know, UFCstore.com, get your hoodies and your new fight kits, blah blah blah. Like that's something that we're really good at as trained broadcasters.
Right.
To like read a promo card, to hit it the right way.
Right.
To read it with some urgency, with some energy, to not just like kind of get through reading 3 or 4 sentences. You know.
Right.
So that's really the skill, you know, among other things. But you know, like if you just sat, you know, DC next to Dom Cruz and said, you guys have to call this fight, like they'd be able to do that.
Right.
You know, it's in the in-between stuff where kind of the host, the play-by-play, the whatever.
Right. The stuff that they wouldn't.
The ship.
Right.
Keeps it moving along.
That makes it the stuff they wouldn't be that excited to do anyway, as sponsor reads and other
but
stuff.
In terms of calling a fight, like they could of course call a fight.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Yeah. You know, I remember in boxing years ago, once in a while you'd hear commentary team like argue or almost get mad at each other. I don't see that really happening in the UFC. I mean, I'm sure no one wants to make things look stupid that way, but have you ever seen that happen, or have you ever been involved where someone just really dislikes what you said, or you really dislike what someone else says, or DC really disliked what Annex said or something like that?
I mean, it hasn't happened to me.
Right.
You know, and if they did dislike something that I said, then they were professional about it and kept it going. But I really love the chemistry that I have with everybody. You know, I've had to work with a lot of different people even before the UFC, and kind of prided myself on being a good teammate, because when the chemistry is there on the air, it's just we're having more fun. And then it just spills into the viewership. You know, like if they know we're having fun, then they're going to smile along with us a little bit.
Yes.
And so if somebody's got an axe to grind, or if I'm going to try to be abrasive to somebody else I'm on the broadcast with, or ruffle some feathers or whatever, that's not going to serve me well. It's not going to serve them well. It's not going to serve the fans well.
Yeah.
It's not going to make anybody's job or life easier on the crew, and it's just not going to be as fun to watch.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess, you know, it could be that train wreck you can't look away from if somebody's really just having an argument on the air, like, oh, this is uncomfortable, but I got to see what happens. But you know, I don't think that's the way that anybody wants to operate, and so I don't really have anything to say that would, I don't think, ruffle any feathers in terms of my analysts. I guess, you know, sometimes if you were to strongly disagree with what they were saying, but again, they're the experts. Like, what am I going to argue with Bisping about?
Yeah.
He's been a fighter for 20 years, won a UFC championship, in the UFC Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Like, I guess we could disagree on something, but it's not my place to voice it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. You know,
but I don't think I don't think that would really arise anyways, you know, other than maybe in a joking fashion. Yeah. You know, and then it's fun.
Right,
you know?
Exactly. And you guys do have a great chemistry, and the humor I love that there's always been some humor in combat sports, because in and of itself, it's not a funny thing at all. It's real hard combat, but, you know, in enjoying it and bringing personality into it, people like that, because I think a lot of the fighters themselves do have a sense of humor. You know what I mean? And,
absolutely.
You know, so it's a good thing. What if they were to mix things up, and this would be kind of fun. They probably wouldn't have to do this, but suppose they said, all right, Brendan, listen, after this thing with Jeremy Stevens and Drakkar Close, Sean Shelby's going to go on a vacation. We need you to be the guy that stands between the fighters. Well, now you're a fairly sizable guy. I'm sure you wouldn't be afraid to do it, but would that be kind of odd? Or would you?
I mean, it would definitely be odd.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of. It would be fun to do a lot of different things. Yeah. You know, I think it would be fun. Those things are so gosh, normal. I mean, I know it's like weird to like say like, yeah, I'm gonna go to work today, and people are gonna step on a scale in front of cameras,
Right.
and then at the end of it, they're gonna stare at each other in the face, and then we're all gonna go and come back for the show the
Right.
next day. Like that's not a normal day at work for
No.
most people, but
No.
in the Apex especially, it's just like in town. I live in Vegas. Get up, go to the weigh-ins, kind of MC the thing, announce them coming on the stage, and then like do what you got to do work wise at the office before you head home and come back for the show the next day. It's really become like this normal kind of quick and easy thing. Of course, when you're dealing with the stare downs, there's always like the X factor if something could happen here. And it's funny because, you know, most of the times you can sense like when there's a lot of bad blood going into a fight, whether it's a title fight, you know, it's going to be an intense stare down, or whether it's two guys or girls that really don't like each other. And, you know, for the most of the fight nights, though, it's just like, okay, they're going to be pretty cordial and professional.
Yeah.
You know, but I was saying to the security guard before we started, I was like, we were looking at the sheet literally right before I announced the first names. And I was just like, Steve, what do we think is going to give us trouble here? You know, because the security guy's job to make sure they don't take each other's heads off, right? And come in.
Yep.
And we were just kind of looking down the sheet, and I was like, probably Stevens and Drakkar. That's probably going to be your most intense one. I mean, just knowing Stevens,
right?
That's probably what we're looking at. We're going to look at some trash talk, and that one's going to be the most aggressive, good piece of video. You know, in terms like if it's a really good intense stare down, there's a lot of talking. That's good. That's good for the show. Obviously, it went next level. And, you know, gosh, and then I hated losing that fight. We found out 10 minutes before we went on the air on Saturday that the fight was off. So, that was really unfortunate.
It was.
If the fight was able to go on, I mean, look at the marketing that did. You know what I mean? True. In terms of like, geez, that was if they just shook hands and did that, nobody would ever, you know, there's plenty of people out there that would have been like, oh, I didn't even know they were fighting.
That's true.
Sudden, this viral video that went happen.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
You don't want to make it a habit because then the fight was off.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's, you know,
there's a fine line to go on, and that show was a little intense.
It was. I mean, we've had Jeremy on the show before, and he was nothing but respectful and friendly with a good in-depth interview we've done. So all respect for him. Obviously, it was a really important fight for him. He's going back up to 55. He had not the best journey at 45, and this is a really important fight for his career. Obviously, Drakkar Klose is an intense guy, and it's unfortunate. I know that you can't comment on anything officially as far as the UFC, nor would I ask you to criticize anyone, so I won't. But you know, we've all read that Dana White was said that he called Sean Shelby right away and said, "What were you thinking, you know, man?" But I mean, obviously, the reality is, if we had to say who was more responsible for that happening, Jeremy Stephens or Sean Shelby, certainly it was Jeremy Stephens. It's, you know, it's unfortunate. I think that that it looked like it was okay for several seconds there when they were nose to nose, and a lot of fighters are kind of nose to nose, and then they hug it out or shake hands, and it's just, you know, I don't know. I guess maybe Sean knew the guys and really felt they were both such professionals that they weren't going to do that. But I'll tell you this, like, some people were talking trash as soon as they heard it called off, and they were saying, oh, what is this, Close is a this and a that, and calling him names. And I'm not ever purporting to make myself a professional fighter, because I've never been, but having trained martial arts for most of my life, you can't, even if a guy's just in his 20s or early 30s like Drakkar Klose, you can't shove a guy that hard when he's not expecting it, and not it's like you get whiplash, your head snaps. And in reality, all the guys that were talking trash on the internet, you know, let someone go over and shove them really hard like that when they're not expecting it. It's kind of a similar effect if you're in a car and someone rear ends you really hard. Your head snaps back, and it's just, you know, I don't know. I don't know whether Jeremy was thinking he would hurt him a little bit and make it an easier fight, or it just seemed like Jeremy was really angry. And you know what I think? Tell me, and this is what I'll ask you to comment on. Is there kind of a feeling that you've ever had from some of the more experienced fighters that maybe they should be given more respect from the younger fighters? That, you know, hey, look, I'm Jeremy Stephens. I've fought all the best in the world. This kid's fought a few guys, but he's not paid his dues like I have. So, you know, don't dare step up on me like that and put your face in my face. Is that maybe possibly what Jeremy's thought could have been, you think?
I don't know what his thought was. I mean, he basically said, "You're not going to step up in my face," but that's the point of the whole thing.
That's a stare down, yeah.
To get in people's faces, and like so. I don't think Drakkar Close did anything wrong. Like, oh, you need to bow down to Jeremy Stevens because he's the veteran guy and whatever. I don't know. I mean, I think it would have been fine if he just shoved him a little less than that. I mean, that was high amplitude, And then, like you said, whiplash. And then let's not forget, like, it was right after they cut weight. Nobody's in their best.
That's right. You're right. There's less water. He was dehydrated. So, yeah.
It's like, it just sucks that fight didn't happen that night. Hopefully that it'll happen soon because now there's a heck of a lot of heat on it.
Yes.
And they'll be ready for the stare down. And then it's still a great kind of matchup and a great fight with a heck of a lot more story behind it. So those are always fun.
Without a doubt. Speaking of fights, are you going to be working 261?
No, I'll be on the couch like everybody else.
I gotcha.
I'll be a big fan back in Las Vegas, and then I work the next week.
That should be so interesting, man. One thing that I find interesting is that it's going to be all the fans in there. I don't think there's going to have to be any social distancing. I think they're saying they're going to hand out masks, but it's going to be optional for the fans. Have you heard that? Is that what the case is as far as you know?
That's what I've heard. I've heard that masks optional.
Yeah.
You can't social distance if you sold the place out.
Right.
And so, I don't know what the situation is going to be on the floor. Like in Abu Dhabi, they sold tickets. They didn't sell it out. But for McGregor and Poirier, they sold tickets. I wasn't there, but I just know they had almost like hockey glass up on the boards.
Right.
So I know in Jacksonville, if they've sold the standard amount of tickets on the floor so that there'll be like the VIP section, which would be, 10 feet away from our broadcast table. Obviously, the broadcast crew is going to be down there. Dana and the official, the commission officials, the referees, everybody who's sitting on the floor around at the Apex in the Florida version will be there too. But I don't know if it's like, okay, and then right after them, there'll be barriers and then there'll be people seated on the floor, or if they're going to have this some sort of, area, bubble, if you will, whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of like in the NFL, like you couldn't sit in the first 10 rows and everybody who was on the field was kind of bubbled. And everybody who was, fans could come and sit in the back. So I don't know how that's all going to work.
Right.
But 15,000 fans is going to be a lot of people there.
It really is. I'm excited to see it. I just feel like after a year and a half, it's time that we have people that are young and healthy be allowed to go out and do things again. I'm not trying to make this to a political statement, and you don't have to share your thoughts if you don't want to, but I for one am happy to see that Florida is saying, you know what, we can't wait forever. What are we going to wait until 2025 to have a live event? And no, we're doing it now, and I like that. I'm excited about that, and I think that if they want, they can check in with everyone in attendance who's under 50, and they'll probably find everyone still alive next year at the same time, is my opinion. You know what I mean? Even under 60, even 70, who knows? So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be great. And some 3 title fights, amazing. Question for you: sometime, I think during the period that you've been with the UFC, I don't think I'm wrong, but somewhere during the period you've been with the organization, there was an event that had 3 title fights, and all 3 titles, I think, changed hands. Do you remember which event that was?
UFC 217.
Nice. I love it. You have a mind like a steel trap. And so I think I
remember that one. So I technically hadn't called a UFC show then. That was Bisping St. Pierre.
Okay.
I hadn't called a UFC show that I had yet. I had done Dana White's Contender Series the first season that summer. And then that was in November of 2017. And I was in the process. So I was already booked to call my first show in December.
Right.
And my boss was like, do you want to come to a show to kind of shadow to see how it all works? You'll be calling play-by-play in December, so we can get you out to a show so that you can kind of observe it. And so he gave me the option of Norfolk, Virginia, the Ultimate Fighter finale, or UFC 217 in New York City. And so I'm just sitting there like, I'll go to UFC 217. Yeah. Can you get me to New York and do all that? And they're like, yeah, let me see if there's a room at the hotel. So they flew me to New York. stayed in Manhattan and went to UFC 217 and saw 3 title fights. Now, for the pay-per-view part of the card, I was in the TV truck, but I was watching the prelims out in the arena, like sitting, right behind the broadcast table. And so I'll forever remember that night, especially because of how crazy it was, number one, and it was my first experience like in arena at a UFC event. And just what a night it was, you know what I mean? And in New York City, and just I'm so lucky that I got to go to that one. And then for that to be what happened on that card, just absolutely legendary.
Absolutely. What were the other 2 titles that changed hands? We know George St. Pierre beat
TJ knocked out Cody in the second round.
Right.
And then Rose beat Joanna the first time.
That's right. That's amazing. Yeah.
And Masvidal, that was Masvidal's last fight before he came back and fought Darren Till. That was Masvidal's last fight before he sat out all of 2018. He fought Wonder Boy, lost to Wonder Boy.
Yep.
On the main card decision. What else happened that night? James Vick got a win that night over Joe Duffy. Walt Harris, I think, had like some sort of DQ for like a high kick. The other big one was OSP knocked out Corey Anderson with a head kick. That was crazy.
Absolutely. We got a compliment from one of our fans who says, "I like this guest, encyclopedia memory." So
see, I don't have it for all of it, but it is crazy. Once you pick a Saturday and you know the date of some show, you can do the rest. Yeah. You can do the rest. Like, so I remember, Uriah Faber's return in Sacramento. That was July 13th of 2019. So I remember that July 20th. You go 7 days later, that was in San Antonio when RDA fought Leon Edwards. Then you go the 27th ahead of that was Edmonton when Max fought Frankie Edgar. And you could just go by 7-day increments. Once you remember the date of one, you can kind of figure out your schedule. And I do have a good memory, but certainly like there's hacks in it where I can kind of remember it like that.
Absolutely. Very cool. I wanted to say thank you to our friend and supporter, Matt Granahan, saying great show, Colin. Thank you, Matt. And a lot of great people supporting. And so interesting stuff. Question for you. And I know we've got actually only about 12 minutes left. So much to talk about, and I really appreciate you coming, man. So have you ever had any fighter come over to you, or fighter coach or manager, say, "Brendan, can you say this in the broadcast about our fighter, happy birthday to him or her, or congratulations that the wife just had a baby, or that he just opened up his own martial arts school here in California," or
they never they don't really push for that. I can't remember a time when they're like, "Can you say this?" Sometimes what we want to do is we want to tell their story. So if they are having a baby, that's kind of a big thing. So Gerald Mershart, he's having a baby any day, any week now.
Nice.
And so on his way, when you're setting up that fight, it's just like, especially for a veteran, for a newcomer, for somebody that's lesser known, you want to give them their story.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's who they are. But then for a veteran at the same time, okay, well, what's new about Gerald? Like, we know that he's good. You can give the nuts and bolts on who he is as a fighter, what kind of style he has, some of his bigger performances, but also what's new about him? What's happening in Gerald's life these days? Because now Gerald's going to go home, he's going to have a baby, and then the next time he fights, maybe he has a 6-month-old.
Yep.
And then he's like training as a dad, and that's a whole new storyline. But every chance that these fighters come out, because they fight, average of 2 to 4 times a year, months will go by, or even longer than that, when you see them. So they don't, that's kind of us like wanting to do that. And kind of part of the job of like, let's tell their stories. And, humanize them is always kind of a funny word. It's just like, well, yeah, we want to humanize them, but what does that mean? It's just, it means you want to tell a story to make the fans a little bit more invested than they were. It's one thing to be like, oh, this is a jiu-jitsu guy. It's just like, okay, this is a jiu-jitsu guy who just got married last week. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And, he got the call to take this fight, so they're skipping their honeymoon. They're postponing it because, all that sort of stuff, right? And then what if he has a big knockout and wins a $50,000 bonus? Wow, man, what a honeymoon that's going to be.
I love it.
And so you build these layers on these stories. And so everybody has things that they're going through, good, bad, otherwise, families that mean a lot to them, businesses that mean a lot to them, and whatever. So our job is to kind of like find those things that are lesser known and get it out there so that fans can enjoy. If you're a fan of Gerald Meerschaert, you might enjoy him a little bit more, root for him a little bit harder if you know what's going on in his life. So they don't generally tell us like, make sure you say this. Right. Sometimes I'll say, what are your kids' names? And they'll be like, oh, I have two boys, names Max and Max and Kevin. I'll be like, and he'd be like, oh, if you could shout them out, that would be awesome. Okay. Right. And then it's like a fun thing. And I'll on the watch be like, oh, Max and Kevin are watching at home. Daddy's, whatever. And then that could be a fun thing. And I know they really appreciate it. And then, it's not like inappropriate to do anything like that. But generally, no, they don't say like, can you say this about him? Okay. Not very often, but that's kind of our jobs to find that ourselves and then put it into a narrative that's easily digestible, that makes sense, that's interesting to watch or listen to.
Absolutely, makes sense. We've got about 5 minutes left, Brendan. I'm going to throw you multiple questions, but before I do, give me a quick minute on the Fitz Nation with Brendan Fitzgerald. Where can people find that? What's it about? When is it on? And what are some of the more interesting points of what you do there?
So I wanted to start a podcast and interview show. I really like interviewing, and I get to do it in my job, but I wanted to do more of it, and I have access to these fighters, and so I started a podcast. It was originally called Fitz and a Fighter, but now it's called Fitz Nation, and it's on YouTube. If you just search Fitz Nation or you search my name, that's my channel, Brendan Fitzgerald, and you can find it anywhere you find podcasts. But what it is, it's a deep dive. It's long form interviews with fighters. We go about 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. With fighters, coaches. I just had Megan O'Leary on last week. Nice. So got the story of Megan O'Leary and all the, the things that the journey that she's been on. The most listened to one was Kevin Holland. I had Kevin Holland back on January. And the thing that's good about him is if you get the full story, or if you kind of go into like who they are as people instead of just like their next fight or their last fight, then they're pretty evergreen. Like you could still listen to the Kevin Holland one. He's fought twice since then, but it's still a compelling story about the relationship with his parents who were mostly absent when he was growing up, why he's a fighter, different things about their personalities that I feel like don't come out in other interviews. Not that it's bad, just that in other interviews, it's more news of the day, of the week, of their upcoming fight, of their last fight, of what's going on. It might be their opinion on something else, but for my interviews, it's more about them and their story, who they are as people, where they've been, where they're going, where they hope to go, and what makes them, who they are. So that's the gist of it, and it's a heck of a lot of fun to do.
Absolutely. And we just got a compliment also from one of our watchers that says the human interest stuff is so much more compelling, all the characters in the end. So the world-renowned historian, our viewer here, really likes what you're saying, and we appreciate that. That's why we have these good people on, like Brendan, and we're so grateful to have them. So when and where can people watch the Fitz?
Fitz Nation.
Fitz Nation.
New episodes every Wednesday, except for today. I actually skipped today. I took 1 week off, but new episodes every Wednesday, podcast form. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, anything where you listen to podcasts, you'll find it. And then on YouTube, it drops every Wednesday morning, and it's, just simple kind of Zoom chats like this with some of my favorite people and some of your favorite fighters, no doubt.
Fantastic. I will definitely check it out for sure and encourage our watchers to do the same. About 4 minutes left, Brendan. I see you doing something with DraftKings. I didn't know you knew that much about the odds and stuff. I know that, that it makes sense that you would, but do me a favor. If we can talk about the fights here, the 3 championship fights coming up in Florida, I don't know whether you are okay with making predictions for fights that you're not calling. I would imagine you certainly wouldn't for fights that you are calling, but do me a favor, and if you can throw out a prediction. If you can't, at least let me know if you think these odds are correct, or if there's any value on any of the dogs here. I'm seeing Rose is anywhere from plus 160 to plus 175 dog, and Andraj is anywhere from plus 320 to 350, and Masvidal anywhere from plus 275 to 350.
So I don't make predictions on any fights.
Okay.
because I might be calling Rose's next fight.
Right, that makes sense.
On Zhang Weili's, whatever. So I just never make any predictions on UFC fights, and I also can't bet. UFC employees can't bet, but I do host the gambling show called UFC on the Line. That's on Fight Pass, and the last one was on YouTube as well. So if you search UFC on the Line on YouTube, you might be able to find it. What I will say about the odds on the underdogs, specifically to Shevchenko and Andraj, very interesting line there.
Yeah, they're not giving Jessica a chance. I like this.
Minus 390 when we did the show the other day.
Okay.
And Andraj is, plus 320-ish or whatever.
Right.
So you could it's a two-sided coin there. Like for Shevchenko, you've never gotten her at this good of a price. Like against Chookagian, she's minus 700, goes up to like minus 1200.
Right.
Against Jennifer Maia, she's like minus 1000, goes up to minus 1800. Crazy. Like it doesn't make sense to bet on her on any of those numbers. But now all of a sudden, minus 390, that's as big of a discount as we've seen on Valentina Shevchenko since she fought Joanna in Toronto.
Right.
And since she fought, obviously Amanda Nunes.
Right. No, that's gone. Sorry to interrupt you. That's gone.
That's big discount there. But on the other side, you've never gotten more than plus 300 on Jessica Andrade.
Right.
That's the other thing. Right. It's like, okay, you've never gotten Valentina at this big of a discount, but you've also never gotten 3-1 on your money on Jessica Andrade. Correct. She's almost always the favorite.
Yeah.
And when she's the underdog, maybe it's like it's a coin flip.
Yep.
So now all of a sudden you're telling me you can get a fighter as good and as powerful as Andrade for more than plus 300.
Yeah.
That's very interesting to me on like how you can make the case either way,
That's true. There's value on both sides.
Yeah, and then also like Jorge Masvidal is a bigger underdog now than when he took the fight last summer and had 6 days to get on a private plane and cut 20 pounds in 5 days.
That is strange, yeah.
And now he's got a full camp and he's in his home state and he's in front of a full crowd and there's going to be more energy and more adrenaline and he's a bigger underdog.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to take a shot on Masvidal last summer, then you certainly want to take a shot on Masvidal here because his whole thing, as soon as he lost, he was just like, did the best I could with a week's notice.
Yeah.
He couldn't take me down that much. He controlled me, but he couldn't take me down that much. Give me a full camp and I'll get rid of him. So now you're getting more underdog on that. So some pretty interesting lines here.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I was going to say is that we no longer are seeing 390 on Shevchenko, a little bit of late money on her, but it's still not that much higher. The lowest is minus 400 all the way up to minus 460, but you can still get minus 430, minus 425. You're right, which is actually a pretty good value on her. But then Andraj, I mean, what my thought is, man, Andraj at bantamweight was so short and small. She was not only short, but she was giving away weight to these other girls, and she still hung in there. And then at strawweight, she's so depleted. I think this is her weight. I think she's going to kill it at flyweight, but whether she can beat Shevchenko, who knows? Anyway, Brendan, I really want to thank you for taking the time to jump on here, man. You're doing such a great job in the UFC. I think that you're really the face in the UFC as years go by. Not that Anik is not going to be there because he's still great, but I really love the work you're doing. I think you'll be around for a long time, and I really enjoy watching you when you call the shows. I hope they have you call more shows because you make it more interesting for me.
Thanks, Colin. You're always very complimentary, so I'm happy to join you. And it was great to see you in Boston all those years ago. It seems like forever ago, doesn't it?
It
but maybe
does.
We'll get out on the road again soon and cross paths. But always happy to join you, and I really appreciate the kind words, man.
My pleasure, my friend. You take care. We'll hopefully see you soon in person.
Yes, indeed. I'll be on the call next week for Reyes and Prohaska.
Awesome. Should be a great
card. See you then.
Definitely. Look forward to it, my friend.
All right, Paul. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye. And that was Brendan Fitzgerald. What a good dude. Really knows what he's talking about. Thank you for the great words. World-renowned historian.
Carrying the show for us.
He's great. He's just such a good guy. And I think he's in his mid-late 30s, like our Dr. Adam Roorda here. So he's just a fresh face here in the UFC. And I think we'll be around there for a while. Really humble dude. And he's really someone that knows what he's talking about and has respect for the fighters and everyone. So really,
respect matters in this game.
It does.
Whether you're doing an editorial or not, respect matters. A lot of these MMA journalists out there give guys like you and me a bad name, but we're doing it the right way, and you're respecting him and he's respecting you. That's the way it really needs to go down.
Absolutely. Wasn't it James Brown that said, respect yourself, right?
Respect yourself.
But respect everyone else too. That's the key
absolutely
thing.
Hey, Colin, I want to say thank you to everybody out there that's tuning in this episode. Doesn't matter where you're watching from, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Fight TV, Twitch, wherever you're watching from. Thank you so much. Make sure to go on over to our social media. Give us likes, comments, and shares. Also, while you have the chance, head on over to Nessa's Hemp. It's mmaph.nessashemp.com to get yourself a nice discount on a CBDA product that is top of the line. Go get it.
It's good. It's good stuff. CBD, eh? As my Canadian friends would say. But I don't know why that never gets old for me.
I needed an extra minute here, real quick too, because we were going to sneak in a segment for our amazing contributor Francesca Dominique. We unfortunately were not able to because we were having some file transfer issues over the internet. So we will be getting that up here in the near future as soon as the file transfer service is able to go. I'm not going to drop their name. They don't get any free promotion from us today. But
however, positive news about Francesca Dominique.
Positive news is we will be getting it out as soon as we can here on social media.
That's the long interview she did.
Oh no! This is for
okay.
Something different as far as that. That's going to take some time. So we'll see when that is available. We'll get that out once we can. We'll keep everybody posted. And as far as the next guest, he come and goes.
Just about ready.
He's not a ghost. He's not a ghost.
Space ghost. Right? I would be Space Ghost, and you could be what was that? Praying mantis Zorak.
Oh man. I mean, that is pretty much us.
It is pretty much. We're like Space Ghost and Zorak. But we don't have Brack, that guy that's like...
We just need that. Oh, that's such a great format. You know what? I'm going to go research that show a little bit, and I'm going to definitely build something based off that.
That would be cool. You got to do that. But then you got to give me the power to have a light beam that fries you once in a while if you annoy me. You know, like Space Ghost would do to Zorak. And then all of a sudden you see smoke coming from Dr. Adam Roorda's head. And he's getting soot all over him.
This is an excellent idea.
It is. We should do that.
Yeah, we need the production team. Anybody that's watching, if you guys are really talented in this kind of stuff, let us know.
Please, yeah. Remember our filter idea from a year ago? That craziness that I thought of?
Oh, yeah. We won't discuss that one, though.
No, we can't give that away.
So I'm going to go ahead, and we are ready, I think, aren't we?
Yeah, ready to
go into that dance.
Should I do the Jens Pulver Skype dance this time? I have a lot of respect for him. I met him years ago. He's amazing. But he discovered he liked the music, and he started doing like that.
And we'll see if he is available here.
It looks kind of crazy. I think I'm not quite in the frame, so it looks like I'm...
I don't think he's online, Colin.
He's not online? Well, that would be strange. Did I pass you the new...
No, you didn't. And if you did, I didn't catch it.
Okay, yeah, I noticed there were a few things that you said you didn't get that I sent you. Okay, here would be it in gray.
All right, there we go.
All right.
I will get that real quick.
Anyway, why talk? You know what? Our buddy here, world-renowned historian, when I'm talking about Zorak, he says, "Why are you going to talk about Ariel like that?"
Are you calling me Ariel?
No, I think he said like Zorak is Ariel, like a praying mantis from Space Ghost. Sorry, Ariel, we love you.
Sky dance. There he is.
Hello, Jimmy. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine.
Excellent. All we need to do is hit that video button. You already did it. So let me give you a proper intro as we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, super happy to have this next guest back on the show. This has long been one of my favorite commentators and analysts of the sport of MMA, having been a successful MMA fighter, host of his own TV show, commentator. This is one of the best, most knowledgeable people in the sport. We're talking about Jimmy Smith. Welcome back to the show, Jimmy.
Keep going.
I love it.
Oh my God, it's so awesome. Your praise, I just eat it up. Thank you, so appreciate it. Thank you for having me on again, by the way.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Now, your show in, I think it was 2007, was Vision Quest or Fight Quest.
Vision Quest, an old wrestling movie.
That was an old wrestling movie. I know that. I'm getting.
Modine. I love it to death.
That's right.
Yeah, mine was Fight Quest. I went around the world and did various martial arts for like a year and a half. Yeah, 13 countries, 13 different styles.
It's amazing.
And yeah, I got beat up a lot in that show.
Well,
for the enjoyment of the viewers.
It was great, I got to say. And you know what's interesting? 2 shows I have to think may have been inspired by your show that were similar. One of them is with a friend of ours who I know you fought, Jason Hollywood Chambers, who did Human Weapon, right? And then about 7 or 8 years after that, a guy who we interviewed on our show a month ago, Frank Grillo, the actor, did Fight World, I think it was. And
I just had Frank Grillo on my show for SiriusXM and interviewed him about a movie he just did. Yeah, we talked all about it, man. And yeah, excellent stuff.
yeah, now when I had him on, because I threw you and Jason out there as having done shows similar, and he definitely gave credit. I think he was more familiar with your show than Jason's. But anyway, he said that in actuality, for his show, he had been a fan of the late Anthony Bourdain. And he thought to himself, man, people are loving this that are foodies, the way Anthony Bourdain goes to all different countries. And he said, what if I did something, because he's always been a fight guy. He said, what if I did something that had to do with martial arts? And so he actually said that was a big part of his inspiration there. Anthony Bourdain, I think he had spoken with him once, and he was actually hoping to try to connect with him to do some kind of a project when Anthony unfortunately passed away. But those shows are all similar in their own way, but all unique in their own way. And I know that Frank is always a tough guy who's always trained, and an old Italian guy from the East Coast, whereas you and Jason actually fought MMA competitively. But I think all three shows were great. Did you ever spend time either watching Frank's show or Jason's show or both?
Jason's show came out like a couple months before ours, meaning they were filming a little bit concurrently.
Oh.
It's such a long story.
Right, like what the heck, right?
Yeah, well, what happened was when I fought Jason in my last pro fight,
Yep.
I beat him with a heel hook.
Right.
And in the lead up to that fight, the promoter, a guy named Jamie Walsh, said he's going to be on this show for the History Channel where he goes around and does all these different martial arts. If you beat him, because his record was like 16-2 at the time, he's much more experienced than I was.
Right.
He said, man, if you beat him, that's really going to set you up. He has a contract with UFC, and that's awesome. And I remember thinking, man, that'd be cool to do that job.
Yeah.
And then I beat him with a heel hook, and I got the call for FightQuest the next day, and my first thought was that I injured Jason and they need a replacement because I didn't realize they were different shows.
Oh.
And I felt terrible. Like
Right.
just one of the you know, like kind of the unwritten code in MMA is I'll hurt somebody, I'll cripple somebody, I'll do whatever I have to do. You don't want to hurt them. They can't make money, or
correct.
they can't have their next fight. You want them to, heal up and then do their next fight or whatever. You don't want to take money out of somebody's, wallet or something like that. So I thought that's what I had done. And then it took me a while to realize they were different shows from different networks and everything. And they had a lot of people when it first came out thought that they picked me because I had beaten Jason. They had no idea.
Interesting.
They had no clue I beat Jason. Yeah.
That's so weird.
That's
and then both of your shows, I think, went like one full year or close to it or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like virtually at the same time. I, for some reason, thought that yours was on slightly before his, but it really wasn't.
His was on slightly before ours. Yeah.
And
they were on at the same time. Yeah.
Weird. What networks were they both on? Do you remember?
History Channel for him, Discovery Channel for me. So competing networks too that had kind of like similar. It was bizarre. It was totally bizarre. Our format was a little different in that both Doug and I fought every single time, and in there it was like they went back and forth.
Right. It was him and that guy Bill something.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, who was Doug, the guy that was with you? I forgot who that was.
Guy that was with me, a little bit smaller than me. And
Doug.
then with him, it was Jason, because Jason and I are about roughly the same size. We fought at the same weight class.
Right.
We're both about 5'10", 170 pounds. So he had a guy named Bill who was big, and I had a guy, Doug, who was small. So Jason and I are both average size. So it tells you how big and small those guys were.
That's right. I remember. And it was interesting. Those shows were so great. I mean, I wish they would bring those shows back because... tell me what you think, because I know you've been a fan of this sport as long as I have, which is from the beginning, and you've been in front of the camera, involved in it, obviously much longer than me. I kind of feel like in the early days, the people that were following no holds barred fighting, and in the early days of MMA, were a lot of guys that trained and fought and either knew someone who was involved or had trained in martial arts. I mean, because it wasn't that easy to find out about. They weren't talking about it on any sports TV shows or cable or newspapers. There were no billboards. You had no idea about this sport. In fact, I'm sure you remember back 20 years ago and more, if you would talk about this sport, a lot of people would say, what the hell are you talking about? You know, but I kind of think in those early days, the fans maybe were a little bit more interested and even a little bit more educated, I feel, that really enjoyed shows like Fight Quest and Human Weapon. And whereas now I think there's a certain amount that appreciate it that much, but I guess I think now I don't think 75 or 85% of people following MMA were ever martial artists of any kind. I think a good amount weren't, whereas then I kind of think they were more. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, because it was so niche. It was so small. It was so, and a lot of it was local. Like what's hard for people to remember or keep up with or anything is back in the day, if you wanted to see mixed martial arts with any regularity, you had to go to a local show. Right. You had to like drive there and buy a ticket and see one because it wasn't on TV that often. So that was another part of it, is the only fans who saw it consistently cared enough to actually go. And that's pretty rare. So you would run into people and you would meet people that were in the same thing, or like you'd wear the same shirt, or you'd see something where they would have a King of the Cage shirt on. The only way you can get a King of the Cage shirt back then was to go to a King of the Cage event.
Right. Yep.
So, you know, you could identify people. You know, I bought Tap Out from the trunk of Mask's car.
Nice. God bless Mask.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, so like you couldn't just go to the store and get one. Like when you saw somebody with Tap Out shirt, like they knew those guys personally, or they did jiu-jitsu and got sponsored or whatever. So yeah, it was a different world back then, man. Yeah. You couldn't keep up with it easily. I had to go to a video store in Little Tokyo in LA to find Pride and Pancrase and Shuto and stuff, all in Japanese with the commercials still in it, stuff like that. So different world. You find all that stuff now.
Yeah, without a doubt. I remember I had found that one of the few shirts you can get online early on was Matt Hume and Josh Barnett. Those guys put out the AMC Pancration shirts. Remember those, right? And I had one, and I was going to the post office, and I think Van Nuys at like 8 o'clock at night. And a buddy of mine that I didn't know then saw me and said, "Hey, man, you train in the NHB?" And I said, "I'm not a fighter or anything, but I've trained martial arts. I'm a big fan." And he said, "Me too. We've been friends for like 20 years now." But yeah, if you saw someone with a shirt, or anyway, you knew that they knew about it and were really into it. And you know, so yeah, it was different. It was really cool back then. I remember even I think I got pulled over once for speeding. Back then, a police officer saw my shirt and said, "You train in MMA?" And I said, "I'm not a pro fighter of any kind, but I train. I'm a big fan for sure." He's like, "Yeah, me too. I can't believe it." You know, because you didn't find a lot of us. There weren't so many of us. And, you know, and I just remember from the beginning, because I think I told you that I was so fortunate in that a friend of mine who was a chiropractor, both he and his son trained martial arts where I trained, and the father had black belts in various styles, he was training with the Gracies in their garage in 1991, I think. And in mid-93, he had a copy of the press kit for UFC 1. So I had a Xerox copy of that in my hands. I wish I hadn't lost it. But I remember, you know, right then, and I had already seen the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in action, VHS tapes number 1 and number 2. And I remember from the beginning saying, man, for a combat sports guy, this is heaven. I really right away said, this is so fantastic. And even then, what I saw in the Gracie tapes was the ground fighting dominating everything. A lot of times there wasn't much striking. I still felt that this was going to be the most exciting fighting there was. And I had watched kickboxing for years and other things. I even remember the World Shidokan Open, and this had to be when you were really young, because I know I'm older than you. Yeah,
I remember it, but I was just a kid.
Yeah. And I remember the first round was bare knuckles fighting with no strikes to the head, and then the second round you put the gloves on and you could strike to the head, and the third round was only submission grappling. And then whoever I think won convincingly overall in all 3 segments would win. I remember there's some huge Polish guy that kept on smashing people. No one could beat him. But I remember just that stuff, and then Kung Lee was doing San Shu and stuff like that. And you know, and I just right away I was talking all about this. I remember one funny thing. I had a surgery and in the mid 90s, and my brother and a couple buddies were helping me a little bit. They came to visit me, and on the way out, I said, my brother said, he said, hey, you know, I think we ought to put our buddy Ron here as an alternate against Royce Gracie in the next fight. And then he's like, why don't we throw you as an alternate? And I said, I had surgery. Otherwise, I'd be an alternate against Royce Gracie if you paid me $80 million. You know?
Sure, pay me enough money, I'll do anything. Doesn't matter, man. But yeah, it was a different world that, like, you have trouble even explaining to people these days.
Yeah, really, really, really different. And one of our viewers said he would love to watch the shows I've mentioned, including Fight Quest, Human Weapon, and Fight World. I would imagine YouTube would be the place to find all those. Is your show Fight Quest on there?
I think so, yeah. I think it is. I've seen versions of it online in various places. It should be all over YouTube. You can find all of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you then became the commentator for Bellator for many, many years, and you did an amazing job there. It was, I think you had a couple different partners. I think your later partner was Sean Wheelock, I think, right?
That was my earliest one.
That's right. It was early with Sean.
We started out together in M1 Global. It was the first time I had ever done commentary was for M1. And I started out with them, and then they were starting to kind of phase out U.S. shows. And a bunch of the people I worked with went over to Bellator and told Joan Rebney, who was the head guy over there at the time, man, you got to get Jimmy Smith if you can. And I came over with Sean Wheelock, you know, at the same time we came over. And then I worked with him until 2000, what was it?
13 or 14 maybe?
No, even further than that.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, 15, 16. Yeah. And then Sean Grandy came in, and he was absolutely fantastic. And then it was Morrow and Goldie at the same time.
That's right.
I worked with both of them, yeah. So I had four different partners there.
That's right. I remember the earliest days with you and Sean and the girls. You had Jade, Bryce,
and Mercedes.
Oh, I love them, man. I
love them to death.
Oh, man, they were amazing. I think, not to put down any of the UFC girls, but those girls just were sexy as hell and were super upbeat and cute. Yeah. And, man, it's just a lot of fun. I got a feeling that, like, the on-camera people there got along pretty well in those early days for sure. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody was great. I mean, they were all great to work with. You know, there was almost nobody that was even behind the scenes that was even an issue, man. Just really great people over at Bellator, and I really enjoyed my time there, man. It was awesome.
Yeah, wasn't there a time where you were doing on camera a submission hold tutorial with Jade or Mercedes?
Yeah, they thought it would be funny because back then we were still at the point where, like, a lot of people didn't know what a triangle was or Kimura was. I mean, we were trying to educate the fans, and they thought that'd be a funny way to do it, or like not fun, like more visually entertaining, to have them do it. Yeah, and so I would kind of talk them through it, and they would do it, and yeah, Sweet Submissions, I think it was called.
I remember that. So, you're right. The girls would put it on each other. Yeah, that was freaking awesome. I don't know why, but those girls were like looking like they were very slim and not the strongest of physical specimens. The one would put the choke on, the other one, she'd tap out almost as soon as the choke got put on.
Immediately, man. Yeah,
that was awesome. Good times, though, man. Well, what people want to know, I'm sure a lot of people do know, but where can people find you now? Not that we're finishing up here, but I want to know because I've been so crazy. I haven't been able to follow you, and I always love to know where you're at, so I can really watch and learn as what people do when they watch you. What are your projects now, and where can people find you and when?
Right. So I have my own show with SiriusXM every day from 2 to 5 on Lock in the Cage. It's on Fight Nation. And that's my kind of my daily gig. And then every week I do something for ESPN called ESPN Fight Camp. That's for ESPN International. So it's not easy to find in the States, but it's everywhere basically outside of the States is where it shows. It's called UFC Fight Camp. And then I've been doing work for the WWE recently. So you can start catching me on WWE broadcasts, actually, in the very near future. So, yeah, man, that's the third gig coming down the pipe right now.
I love it. And a lot of our fans here on the Hannibal TV channel, we're on Fight TV, which is just acquired by Triller, and we're also on the Hannibal TV on YouTube. We have a lot of wrestling fans watching. The world-renowned historian, one of our fans here, I know is a wrestling fan. Look forward to Jimmy doing commentator there. He said he learned what a triangle was from the Undertaker. Which,
sure,
yeah, I didn't know that ever happened. But hey, he I'm sure can do a triangle. You remember, I tell you what, I'm going to jump into getting your opinion on these upcoming fights. But let me throw out this last thing. Do you remember?
Please.
Remember about 15 years ago when in the WWE, Kurt Angle was doing some Tough Enough something where, right, he was going to see who would be willing to maybe do like a quick shoot, and then Daniel Puder, raised his hand and actually was starting to put a Kimura on him, and it looks like he had it. And I think, obviously, what do you call him? Angle, who had neck problems, I think, for several years at that point, and was already, I think, in his early 40s, looked to be in not a good position. But then since Puder's shoulders, in some people's opinions, hit the ground, the referee stopped it, and it was probably because he knew it was not what Angle. But
100%, yeah. That ref leapt in there, because they'll break your shoulder if you don't know what you're doing. And
right.
Kurt, as great of a wrestler as he is, he doesn't know this stuff.
No.
Yeah, he would have broken his shoulder pretty quick.
And 15 years ago, Now, Angle, I've seen in commentary on YouTube, tried to say, well, all that may be true, but if I wanted to, I also could have slammed this bad boy on the ground and knocked him probably cold. Although I don't know, because I think Puder was a pretty decent wrestler himself. But,
and he's a decent size.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Puder's not a small dude. So you're not dealing with a small guy, right? So I'll take a slam any day of the week if I can lock in a Kimura and break a shoulder.
Without a doubt.
And I've had people try to slam their way out of stuff, when I was training MMA, and I'll still break whatever I got.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it sucks. I don't like getting slammed, but it's not. I'd much rather get slammed than punched in the face or submitted. So, yeah, it's just, it's a different world, like you spent your whole life, wrestling, collegially as an Olympic gold medalist and, national champion at Clarion. So, the guy can wrestle, but you just didn't spend the years doing the submission grappling like a really experienced guy. And you got to spend the time or else you're not going to know.
Without a doubt. Yeah. I agree. Question for you. From all the tough guys in Bellator today, which handful of them do you think could do really well in the UFC?
Number one is Patricio Pitbull.
Okay.
That dude, he's on 145 is the toughest division in Bellator, and he's been the king of it for years, right? Since beating Daniel Strauss, and mentally unbelievably strong. Hits like he stole something from him. Great submission game. Powerful. He's got everything, man. He's a really fantastic fighter. He's taking on the other guy who might do well, would be AJ McKee, who's undefeated, an excellent fighter in his own right. He would do, I think, extremely well. Great fighter.
Yep.
Those are the two that leap out to me the most, that have a skill set where you go, wow. Darion Caldwell's incredible as well, as long as he could keep going at 135. He had trouble, went up to 45. I don't know how he does. He doesn't, I don't think, have the size for 45, but at 35, phenomenal wrestler. I think he does great things. Those are the ones that spring to mind the most. His brother, Patricky Pitbull, really hard puncher at 55, but 55 is just so good in the UFC.
Yeah, he might not make that.
I'm not saying he wouldn't do well. I'm saying, God, that's a tough division. So his brother Patricio, I think, definitely has a better shot. Douglas Lima at 170.
I was just gonna say.
Oh God, he's a killer.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest 170 I've ever met too. He's just huge.
Yeah.
He would have trouble with the standout wrestlers in the UFC. That's always kind of been his kryptonite. And they got Colby Covington. They have Kamaru Usman. He would have to get through some tough wrestlers. Yeah. But those are the guys I think would be at the top of the list.
Absolutely great calls. Okay, let's break down this card here. Some of these names are just not well known enough for anybody. Let me first tell you what time we're working with. We're working with about 8-9 minutes. So maybe we'll go real quick in the early ones. Carl Roberson, Brendan Allen. I think that's a real tough fight. They've got Allen favored. I like Allen. We've had him on the show. I don't know Carl Roberson, but I also can't be blinded just because someone's on the show and is a good guy. I would think the level that Carl Roberson is at is just more experienced and a higher level than Brendan Allen. Yeah, he got made to look bad by Robert Whittaker, but Kelvin Gastelum just got made to look bad, or did look bad against Whittaker. There's no shame. I think there's a value in the underdog here in Carl Roberson over Brendan Allen. Maybe give me 30 seconds or less on your thoughts on that.
How bad of an underdog? What's the line right now?
Roberson, not big. Plus 130, 135.
That's worth a bet. Yeah, I would say, because Roberson is the classic has more losses, has faced better talent, right?
Right.
And so, the last loss that Brendan Allen had, I think Sean Strickland, I believe, good fighter, not great. Solid guy. There's no shame in that loss. But Carl Roberson, when he's lost in the UFC, Marvin Vettori last time out, Glover Teixeira, Cesar Ferreira, another tough guy. He's just fought better guys throughout his career. I think definitely make money on the underdog, take it.
Exactly, and I just misspoke. It was not Roberson that lost to Whittaker, but Jared Cannonier. Both really great top 10 African-American middleweights, but still no reason for me to confuse them, except
I think, did Roberson lose on The Ultimate Fighter to him?
He may have.
Yeah, I think it was maybe on the Ultimate. So it's not on his record. I think it may have been on The Ultimate Fighter. Don't quote me on that, but right. I think he got crushed on The Ultimate Fighter, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, that would be cool, because then I would be right. But I know the one that fought recently.
I think you are.
I love that. I like that without even knowing it. Okay, Chris Weidman, Uriah Hall is just a weird fight. I like both guys. I've had Uriah on the show. I never have spoken with Chris Weidman, but I took a flight where I was sitting next to one of his aunts to Boston, where he fought Reyes. She said the Weidmans, including Chris, are some of the nicest people you'll find. This is a weird fight. Weidman is a slight favorite. He really needs this win, I think, more than Uriah Hall. But man, I don't know. I think the fight being close, with Weidman being favorite by a little bit, minus 125, minus 130. I can't find a play there. I think it's going to be a close, good fight. I think maybe I'm leaning Hall, but I don't know. What's your quick thought on that?
If Chris Weidman can make it physical, Uriah Hall has had trouble of checking out in fights, right? Almost like doing okay, and then he takes a big shot, and he's just gone. He just mentally, Paulo Costa, Gegard Mousasi, the rematch of Gegard Mousasi, Derek Brunson, he tends to lay an egg in big fights where there's a lot on the line, So I think the mental edge, physical edge, Uriah Hall, mental edge maybe to Chris Weidman. He's had a lot of losses, but once again, the elite of the elite. So if Weidman can make it a physical, grueling, tough match and kind of test Uriah Hall's fortitude, he could get a win in this one.
Without a doubt. And it's interesting. Chris is one of the few wrestlers that have really good submission game. I think he's a black belt under Matt Serra, but he just never doesn't tend to use it. But this would be a time for him to use it, to get that top position and threaten like that. All right, Jimmy Crute against Anthony Smith. It's interesting. Anthony Smith is a pretty decent commentator. I'm not going to put him in the class of someone like yourself, but for a fighter, he seems like a pretty sharp guy.
Sharp mind. And I work with him in SiriusXM a lot. He does.
Cool.
And it used to be MMA Tonight. Now it's MMA Today. I've worked with him a lot. Great analytical mind, smart, articulate, can put it together. He's really fantastic on the mic.
Yeah, and I agree with that, and I think he has a future there. I'm a little bit concerned about his future in MMA against these killers, especially when we're talking, I think we're talking 205. I think he had talked about going back down to 85, but instead he's up against a beast here at 205. I would love to see him do something. And I'll tell you what, since you work with him, if you want to not call this, I don't know if he'll see this show anyway, but how do you think that fight will play out? It looks all bad for Anthony Smith. Jimmy Crute looks like a beast.
Yeah, I got to make my predictions on Friday anyway on my show, so it doesn't matter. I can't get out of it. Okay. The problem that he had in the Rakic fight was he said Rakic was just too strong. Yeah. And he said that after the fight. He was like, dude, Rakic was just too strong. All the stuff I used to do to other guys, I couldn't do them. I think it's a similar thing with Jimmy Crute. He's a big, strong 205er, hits really hard. Anthony might be more technical. I think Anthony has better speed. But when I think it's against the fence, stopping a double leg, a guy putting weight on you, Jimmy Crute is just too big, too strong. I think it looks like the Rakic fight. Might go the distance for sure, even though Crute does hit hard. But I think he just it's about a strength and size disparity. I think that goes in Crude's favor.
I agree. Okay, let's go to the 3 main fights, and I'll limit my input because I think people have heard my thoughts. I'll maybe go 10 seconds, and you can go 30, 40, 50 seconds, whatever you want. So Weili Zhang, Rose Namajunas, or Zhang Weili, whatever it may be. Interesting fight. We have Weili Zhang minus 210 to minus 235. Comeback from Rose Namajunas plus 160 to 175. I think Rose Namajunas is live here. She's got to get it to the ground. I thought Joanna beat Weili Zhang, although it was really close, and but I definitely think that Rose has a good chance here. I think she's worth a bet. I'm going to pick her to win, but I don't think I'd bet much money on it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I got to go with Weili Zhang. Nothing you said is incorrect, but one of the things about Weili Zhang, she puts such incredible physical pressure on everybody she fights, both on the feet and on the ground. So it's one of those things where we're going to find out if Rose Namajunas has overcome the mental blocks she says dogged her when she was champion. We're going to find out if those have been corrected. I think she puts a lot of pressure on her, and I think she takes late rounds. I would go with Weili Zhang.
Absolutely. Should be a great fight. Andraj and Shevchenko, I'll even give my part quicker here. I think this is the weight for Jessica Andraj. Had there been flyweight, she never would have gone down to strawweight. I think the way she sliced through Caitlin Chukagian like a hot knife through butter gives a taste of what she has at this weight. I think she's really live. I think at plus 300, 325, maybe she's going up against the GOAT, but I think that's an overlay. I think that shouldn't be that big a gap in the odds, and I think she's live. I'm gonna be crazy. I'm gonna pick her to win, but I don't know if I bet much money. Your thoughts?
This is my side bet, meaning I'd throw money at it. I still think Shevchenko is a level better than everybody at 125, but if anybody can pull the upset off, it's Andraj. So I got to go with Valentina Shevchenko to win, but my side bet is Jessica Andraj. Yeah, you're right. 3-1 is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the main event, Usman and Masvidal. I'm so torn on this, man. Usman is such a beast. He may not be winning in an exciting manner, but he wins by control, by being the bigger, stronger man with amazing cardio and amazing wrestling. He's still in his prime. I think Usman wins. I think Masvidal does better than he did in the last fight, but maybe not that much better. I think at plus 300, plus 275, I don't think I would want to lay that on Usman, so I would go for a dog or pass as far as betting, but I think Usman probably wins, although I think Masvidal does better than in that last fight. What do you think?
I think it looks like the last fight. You're right, maybe a little better, a little more competitive, but if you can make 55, you're not going to beat Kamaru Usman. Period. I mean, he's too strong, too big. His striking gets better with every single time. He's more confident every single time. People talk about Masvidal, oh, he has a full camp. Yeah, but Usman's gotten better too. So I don't think Masvidal has made enough advancements in his game to get past Usman. I think it looks like the last fight.
Absolutely. So in your opinion, the all 3 champs retain with maybe a chance of one new champion, perhaps.
I agree. Yeah. And I think the fight of the night, the closest one of the night, is going to be Weili Zhang, Rose Namajunas. I think it's going to be very, very competitive. I think that's the one to watch for action.
Absolutely. Well, Jimmy, I really appreciate you coming on. Once again, let us know real quick where people can find you to follow your great commentary.
Hey, Unlocking the Cage every day, Sirius XM, Fight Nation 2 to 5, and look out for me in the WWE coming up.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jimmy. It means a lot to me for you to come back to the MMA Power Hour, brother.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Good night. Jimmy Smith, love him, amazing guy. We did that interview 3 years ago in Venice, face to face. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it, Adam? With some interesting people in the background going, "What the heck's going on here?"
Everybody's like looking at us like,
yeah, they're like, "Wow, what the heck?" And it's like, it's just an interview, dudes, But anyway, it was a lot of fun.
Who is that famous person?
Yeah, people recognize Jimmy there. Maybe me, I doubt it, but you never know. But Jimmy is such an awesome guy. I could probably talk to him for an hour, and I think in some of our past interviews I did. But anyway, we have 5 minutes left or 4. So Adam, I will throw it to you to do your wrap up.
Well, wrap up. Let's start rapping. No, I'm not very good at that, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, no rap.
Thank you, everybody, for the amazing comments. You guys are amazing. The show is amazing. Colin is amazing. The guests are amazing. And everything that you do to support our social media, our website, our news, all of our contributors, that's absolutely amazing. I want to thank you guys in advance for likes, comments, and shares. Also want to thank you for heading on over to Ness's Hemp. It's mmaph.nessashemp.com. Get yourself some CBD oil, hemp oil, and help yourself out while helping us out. So thank you guys. Thank you everybody that came on the show. Thank you, Colin. For tonight, I'm tapping out.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adam Roorda, for everything you do. It is fantastic. Really, really is. Ladies and gentlemen, so much fun we had here, and we have some great fighters set for next week, although not completely confirmed, so we can't let you know now, but we will in social media early as we can. Thank you for everyone here commenting. I know my buddy Marcus23 commented, probably on Fight TV. We can't see it, unfortunately, but on Hannibal on YouTube. Thank you, world-renowned historian, and Matthew Granahan, and unfortunately we can't scroll up and see, but thank you for all the rest, Shinta, all the rest of the great people. Really appreciate you. Tell a friend, and we will do everything we can to bring amazing guests and interviews to you in order of appearance. Thank you so much, Chris Breezy in the future. Brown, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much, Brendan Fitzgerald. Really appreciate you, brother. And thank you so much, Jimmy Smith. Really appreciate you, brother. And that's about it. Go out there, spread the love in a positive way. Be that guy, be that girl. Let your family know that you got their back. You love them, your parents, your kids, your uncles, your cousins, your nieces, nephews. Even let your coworkers know you got their back. A kind word may mean a lot more than you think. Take good care of your pets. The unconditional love they give you is worth more than anything else in the world. You know, where can you find unconditional love during these hard times in these days? Anyway, big love and respect from MMA Power Hour and our entire